Okay, we're continuing in the Shari Teshuva. We're on the 9th principle. And the 9th principle, we're in the middle of it, is Shviras HaTaiva HaGashmis, is breaking the physical lusts that the person has. And we're going to be starting at the top of page 42 and 43, in the middle of Sif Lamed. We're in the middle of it, and hopefully we'll finish it today. Rabbi Yonah has already said that if a person is very much into his taivas, very much into his lusts, even if these are permitted things, it will likely bring you, it's liable to bring you to do averos. And he continues and explains on the very top line, second word, ki kol zman she'adam hoylech acharei hatava, because as long as a person goes after his physical gratifications, nimshach acharei toldos hachomer, he is following after the ramifications of what it means to be involved in the physical world. And what also happens is v'yirchak miderech hanefesh hamaskelas, and he distances himself away from that of an intelligent soul. In other words, the more you're involved in physical things, the more you strengthen the physical aspect of the person. There's two aspects of the person, the physical and the spiritual. They work like muscles. So the more you exercise the physical, the more you engage in eating and enjoying the physical pleasures of life, to that degree you're strengthening that drive for physical pleasures, you're strengthening the drives of the body, and you're weakening the drives of the soul. That's what he's saying exactly. Now, that's not a sin yet, per se, but it will certainly lead you to Averos. And then what will happen is, then your Yetzer Hara, your evil inclination, will overcome you. Ke'inyan shenemar, as he brings two verses in Sefer Dvarim to prove this point. The first one is Vayishman Yeshurun Vayivot. And Yeshurun, that's a name for the Jewish people. Yeshurun, Yishman, grew fat, Vayivot, and kicked. And means they sinned. V'nemar, it also says, Pentochal v'savato v'chulo v'rom levavecha. It says, lest you will eat and become satiated, and then your heart will be arrogant. And a third pasuk in Mishlei, V'nemar pen espa v'chichashti, lest I become satiated and I will deny that which Hashem wants me to do. The Gemara similarly says, a lion doesn't roar when its regular diet consists of straw. It only roars when it's given flesh. Same idea. In other words, the satisfaction and the gratification of the physical engenders a behavior which is very physical and gross in nature. So Amru Zichrono Livracha, and our rabbis of blessed memory said, this is regarding the sexual organ. The Gemara says, Eiver Koton Yesh Ba'adam. There's a small organ in the person, Maspio Ra'ev. If one satiates it and satisfies it, what happens? It gets hungrier. Marivo, if one starves it a bit, it's made to be hungry. Savea, it is full. It's filled, it's satiated. It's the contradictory halacha of the Eiver Katon, of the small organ of the body, which is a very interesting halacha. But what the Gemara is trying to say, as much as you think that if you satisfy human needs, they will be satisfied, human physical needs are never satisfied, especially when we're talking about sexual gratification. And this was all based on a Gemara that's talking about David HaMelech. David HaMelech one day was analyzing the prayer service, and in the prayer service it said in the Shemon Esrei, Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, Elokei Yaakov. Who bless Hashem, he's the God of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. So King David said, Hashem, why don't we say in the Shemon Esrei, Elokei David, the God of David? I think I'm pretty well spiritually developed, that I should be one of the people mentioned. And the truth is, he is hinted to in the Shemon Esrei, as we say, May vi goel livnei v'nehem, and we bring a redeemer to the children, which comes as descendant of King David. But anyway, God says, well, I'll tell you what. Those three I tested. You I never tested. So King David said, so please give me a test. So Hashem said, are you sure about that? Not always the best idea to be tested. So he says, no, I'm ready for it. So Hashem said, okay. And as a matter of fact, I'll even tell you where the area I'm going to test you in is. So, okay. What's the area? The area will be sexual desire. That's what I'm going to test you. So, okay. So that now King David knew. Now this is all a Gemara. It's based on a couple words in the Navi. All the Navi says is it was when King David got up from his bed in the middle of the day. So the rabbis analyzed that word. Since when does a king get up from his bed in the middle of the day, a Jewish king? King David, we knew, got up in the middle of the night to start his day. So rabbis understood that if he got up from his bed in the middle of the day, he made a special effort to be involved in sexual gratification. So what does that mean? So here's where King David made the mistake, because he did not know the law of the small organ. He figured, God is going to test me in an area of sexuality. Okay, so I have to be careful not to fall in that area. So what do? Well, I'll be with my wife in the middle of the day, and I will satisfy my little organ, and then it won't be hungry for anything where it shouldn't go. That's what he thought. And he did not know that it works exactly the opposite. The more you gratify that organ, the more it needs more. And then he stumbles into the sin of going after Bathsheba, and the whole story that I don't want to go into, and needs a lot of explanation. But you see, and that from there the Gemara says, Eiver Kotni Yesh B'Adam, there's a small organ in a person. Maspio Ro'ev, if you satiate it, it gets hungry. Marivo Savea, and if you starve it, as it were, not totally starve it, but let it be hungry, Savea, you are able to satiate it. And that's based on everything we said, because the satisfaction of the physical always remains hungry and leaves you hungry afterwards. We could say the same thing by food. If a person eats a lot, a person is used to eating a lot, then a person will, and in between meals doesn't eat, he's going to be very, very hungry in between. Very hungry in between. Because he's used to filling up what he wants, and the body is craving for food more and more and more. While a person who doesn't eat too much, even if he skips a meal, his hunger isn't going to have such huge hunger, because he's used to having less. And that's what Rabbi Yossi is saying over here. So therefore, the 10th step of Teshuva, 9th step of Teshuva, is breaking the physical lusts, material lusts, because they only, if you don't, it only strengthens your desires. And therefore, if you cut it down, now we're not talking about living a life of total asceticism. We're not talking about that. We're talking about, even though he's using the word breaking, but, he's breaking the lust. Tava gashish. You're breaking that lust, but, you just eat what you need to eat and not more than that. And in all physical areas, you just take what you need and not more than that. Okay, continuing in Sif Lamed Aleph. He's going to be on this topic for quite a while. On this page, the next page, quite a bit. So let's see. But it's fairly simple. I think we can go through this pretty quickly. Lamed Aleph. Vine hatava nesuna b'leiv adam. The lust that is put in the heart of a person, shoresh kol ha'pu'ulos, is the root of all activities of a person. Meaning to say that physical desire has the ability of taking the role of being the captain of the ship. If it goes unbridled and uncontrolled, it takes over every activity of the person. And you can see there are people who everything is channeled by their physical activities. I was at a funeral a while ago, and people are speaking about the deceased, and all they could say about the deceased was how much money he could make. It's like incredible. well, not the whole, but a significant amount of the talk was how shrewd a businessman he was, how shrewd a negotiator he was, how proud they were that he made so much money. And it was like, well, I guess maybe the children were quite happy with that because they had inherited quite a bit. So I guess they had to talk about it. But it's like, but the whole talk, you know, from the youth of the person they're describing well into their old age, it all revolved around his ability to do business, his way of doing business, blah blah blah. It's a Jewish funeral. And, you know, and then, okay, then there was a token, you know, like going to Shul, and a couple of those as well. But the feeling you walked away was, boy, everything this guy did revolved around physical gratification. And so that's what he's saying over here, that it can be the captain of the ship. L'chein, therefore, im yitakena tavos, if you can put some parameters and certain degrees of control around one's lusts. So here's the difference. Tachas asher kol ha'evarim yishor sum, instead of all the body parts serving the lustful part of the person, instead of that happening, yimshechem achrei haseichel, they will be drawn to the intellect. V'yalavu, and they will accompany the intellect. V'yisharsu, and they will serve him. And yichsharu kol ha'polim, and they will make the activities of the person all appropriate in terms of the types of activities he should do. So, in other words, it's a direction of the person. You have a body, and the body has lots of tools, and they're ready to take orders. Every part of your body is ready to take orders. So the question is, where are they going to take orders from? Are they going to take orders from the lustful body part of the person, or are they going to take orders from the intellect of the person? So, probably the person who has sinned, more than likely, the body parts have been taking orders from the physical, lustful part of the person, and that's what draws you into sin. And to get out of that, remember, it's not just a question of, I'm sorry for the aver I did, I'm making a concerted effort not to ever do it again. So just saying, no, I'm not going to do it anymore, and I really don't want to do it anymore, as we've seen throughout, is not really meaningful. What steps have you taken to ensure that this will not happen again? So he said, so since most averos are body lust orientated, not all, but most of them are, so he said, I'm making a committed effort to not focus so much on the body anymore, and I want my seichel, my intellect, to be running the ship. And if that happens, there's much less averos going to happen. But if a person, you know, he just lets himself free and loose and come what may, you know, whatever my desire is, let me do it, then of course the physical desires are going to control the person totally. And now he brings a number of psukim, so we'll try to go through this quickly to prove this point. In other words, Rabbi Yonah, you know, you might say, Rabbi Yonah is just saying some nice ideas, some wisdom. But Rabbi Yonah is not making anything up. He knows, and most of the proofs, you know, they're not usually from the Chumash. They're more from Mishlei, Proverbs, and the later prophets. And you read them properly, you understand what they're saying. But this concept is brought through. Shenemar, he brings a number of verses now. It says, V'zach yoshor pa'olo. V'zach, for the person who is pure, so yoshor pa'olo, his activities are always straight. A pure person, his activities are straight. Now, what gives him the right to say that a pure person means he's pure from lust? Maybe pure in another way. So in the brackets he explains, V'nir ali, it appears to me, Shemafarish HaPasuk Zach, the way to explain the pasuk when it says the word Zach, pure, Ratzalai Mishu Zach Minatavas, the person is pure from lusts. And Yashar Pa'alo, his activities are straight, meaning to say, Komasov Becheskas Mesukonim Yisharim. You can assume that all his actions, there's a chazaka, there's an assumption that all his actions have been perfected and they're straight. And how would we know this? Because the next pasuk says the opposite. In Mishlei, a lot of times they have the positive and then the opposite negative. So by looking at the negative, you can understand what the positive was trying to say. Now if you look in two psukim afterwards, when it's saying the positive, it says like this. Nefesh Rosha Iv Sarah. The soul of the wicked, Iv Sarah, desires, lusts evil, is a lust. And therefore, lo yuchan be'enav re'eu. So his neighbor will not find any favor in his eyes. So you see, the Rasha is the one who lusts for evil. And that's the opposite of the Zach, the pure. So the pure one must mean the one who's not lusting for those kinds of things. So that's one proof. Another proof. V'nemar, it says later on, earlier in Mishlei, it says, Tava nihiyo te'erov lenofesh. So what does that mean? It says, Tava nihiyo. It's a hard word to translate, nihiyo. But if the tava is nihiyo, te'erov lenofesh. That's sweet for the soul. That's good for the soul. It's good for the soul if the lusts are nihiyo. So what does nihiyo mean? So Rabbi Yonah says, nihiyo kamo nishbara. Nihiyo means broken. So tava niya, if the tava, the lust is broken, that's sweet for the soul. Milshon, how does he know that niya can mean lust? Because it says in another pasuk in the Nil, nihiyesi v'nechalesi. I have been broken and I have been sick. So what is the Navi? So what do you see from these two psukim in Mishlei? Omar, he's saying, especially the last one, ki kasher yeshaber adam tavaso gam b'dvarim hamutarim. If a person can break his lusts, even in areas that are permitted, because it just says tava niyah. It didn't say a tava for bad. It didn't say it's a rasha. It just says tava niyah. If a person will break his taivas, then terav l'navesh. He says, Bazet taslich hanefesh. The soul will be successful. Lamira azos, and this attribute, terav, will be sweet for the person. Ki yorim aseichel yodav agover, because the hand of the intellect, as it were, will become strengthened. So you see that King Solomon understands, as much as we think that giving up physical pleasures will kill us and make us miserable, King Solomon understands differently. He says the more you break your physical taivas, the sweeter it is for your soul. Your life will be more enjoyable. Again, it doesn't mean to say you can't have a piece of kugel tonight at the Shabbos table. But as we said many times, one piece of kugel. One piece of kugel. That's all you need. I mean, together with a piece of chicken, I'm saying. But that's all. If you want to have 4 pieces of kugel, that's the taiva. So you break the taiva, and then that will be sweet for the soul, because while you're taking the ship out of the hands of the body, and you're putting the ship in the hands of the intellect. And the intellect will make the correct decisions, the body does not make the correct decisions. You'll never make the body happy, and your life will not be sweet. Your life is sweet when there's less involvement in the physical world.
So these are just physical lusts he's talking about, not intellectual lusts.
Well, there's not a whole lot of intellectual lust going around.
Learn. Just learn.
So that's a good. It's a good thing to learn. That's a good thing.
I'm just saying.
I'm saying you. Why did God create a person to have the ability to lust? It's because He wants people to lust proper things. Someone should lust Hashem.
That's exactly right. That's what
Lusting is having a strong desire for something. So of course you're supposed to have positive lust. I lust to always be close to Hashem.
Right.
That's a wonderful thing. It's hard to do that if you're lusting for lots of food and lots of other things.
So it's physical lust that we are concerned with here, that we should stay
primarily, that's correct.
Okay.
And then there's another pasuk in Proverbs, V'toavas ksilim sur meira. What's an abominable thing for a fool? What does a fool hate? Sur meira, staying away from evil. Meaning to say, haksilim, who are these fools? Asher einam shovrim tavosam. They don't break their desires. V'rotvim tami tanugos b'deyadim, and they constantly run after physical pleasures of the human being. So now, kisivka tavosam b'derech v'chol davar. So when a lust comes that's in a way of sin, or in a bad way, then lo yasir, they won't go away from it. They won't go away from it, because that's an abomination for them. V'nikru ksilim, and why are they called fools? Al redifas hatanugim, because they're running after pleasures. How do we know that? K'moshe Nemer, it's somewhere else in Mishlei, uksil adam yivalenu. The foolish person gets swallowed up into physical gratification. So that's how we know that the ksil is the one who's into physical gratification. V'nemer, it also says in Yeshaya, Hoi mashkima b'boker, woe to the people who get up early in the morning. 44. For what? Sheikhar Yirdofu. They run after drink, strong drinks. V'hoya kinor v'nevel, and they've got the harp and the other musical instruments. And they're out there getting up early to have a good time. Ve'espal Hashem lo yabitu. But the work of Hashem they don't look at. So who are we talking about? That's these people that aren't going to be happy with that. V'nemar, and it also says, Ubeten Rishoyim Techsor. The belly of the wicked is always lacking. And finally, V'nemar, it says in Malachi, very strong words, V'zeirisi peresh al penechem. I will spread excrement upon their faces, peresh chagechem, the excrement of their holidays. V'amar Rabbi said in Zechon Bracha, and our rabbis explain, Elu b'nei Adam shekol yemem kachagim. These are people that all their days are like holidays. It's interesting. The Zohar and the Rambam take this very pasuk and they reference it to people who enjoy their Yomim Tovim. They enjoy the Yom Tov. They have their family around them, but they don't have poor people at the table. They don't reach out to other Jews who are in need. They say this exact same pasuk, because again, if what Hashem is saying is, there is an Indian to make, because why it's called Chagechem, your holidays. The Navi is saying, I will spread the excrement of your holidays, because it's supposed to be Hashem's holiday.
What does he mean by the excrement?
Well, obviously, he's using a metaphor. But it means, it's not. You won't have this ability to. No, you won't. You won't be able to enjoy life. Hashem, you'll get punished. Things, you lose your wealth, or bad things are going to happen. It's going to turn. The holidays are not going to turn to be so festive anymore. It's like God saying, "I'm going to turn it on your face." Going to turn it on your face. You think you're celebrating Yom Tov. You're not celebrating. You're celebrating your Yom Tov. You're not celebrating Hashem's Yom Tov. And Hashem's not interested in you just partying if it's not Hashem's Yom Tov. The whole part of it is, how do we know you're celebrating Hashem's Yom Tov? What's the biggest proof you're celebrating Hashem's Yom Tov? If you're making sure that every one of Hashem's children is enjoying the Yom Tov. Right? That's the famous analogy they bring. People misquote, this Gemara that says, whatever you spend for Shabbos, you don't lose. Mm-hmm. So you're right. Whatever you spend for Shabbos, you don't lose. Whatever you spend for yourself, you do lose. So they give the analogy of a person who, a father is marrying off a son, and he has sons who are out of town. So he sends a letter, and he has two sons who are out of town. One is rich and one is poor. So he sends a letter to the rich son and says, listen, I want you to come to the wedding. Don't want you to spare any expenses. It's my honor and my covet that your whole family comes, and outfit the kids with all the best stuff you have. I want all my family to come to this wedding and to be decked out for my honor. So the rich son, he goes to the fanciest stores and buys everything and gets a golden carriage and the works. And he takes care of everything, and he comes to the wedding. He runs up a bill for $30,000. The poor son doesn't got a lot of money, so what can he do? He can't come with very much at all. So they come to the wedding. The rich son is even richer looking, and the poor son doesn't look very good. So father said, I'll pay you back after the wedding. So the wedding's over, the Shabbat Bracha is over. The son comes to the father and says, okay, here's the bills. It's $30,000. Father says, I'm not paying. He says, what do you mean you're not paying? I'm not paying. Well, you told me whatever I buy in honor of this wedding is going to be paid back. He says, I said I want all my children to come to this wedding looking beautiful. Why didn't you make sure that your brother came looking so beautiful? Why didn't you spend money on him? So it means you didn't come for my honor for this wedding. You came for your own honor. For your own honor, I'm not paying you back. So that's the same thing with this Gemara. The Gemara says, your parnas is determined on Rosh Hashanah except for what you spend on Shabbos and Yom Tov. But it's for Hashem's Shabbos, Hashem's Yom Tov. So if you buy the most fancy foods and you don't invite poor people to the table, so Hashem's saying it's not my party, it's your party. And I'm not paying you back for your party. I only pay you back for my party. That's the same idea over there. So, so what comes out of the party? A lot of excrement, it's a lot of waste product, as it were. And Hashem says, that's all you're going to get from the parties. What you're supposed to get from these parties is a higher connection to Hashem. That's what the party's for, and that's what Hashem wants to. Why do we have to engage the physical body? You know, I got an email from somebody this week. They were not very pleased with how Simchas Torah looked. They're not pleased. They wrote very respectfully. Person said it was respectful, at least, so I assume it was. So, and he said, is this the way Simchas Torah is supposed to be? People drinking a lot. It seemed like it was Purim.
A newcomer, Shul?
Not a newcomer.
Okay.
Not a newcomer, but somebody who wrote that he felt somewhat like an outsider, but whatever. But it wasn't the first time that person came, and the person knows about these inyanim. So he said, it looked more like Purim, like it didn't look like Simchas Torah. And then the person starts talking about how alcoholism is a problem, and the whole thing, and there's people in the community who have alcohol problems. So it's just the person says, I want to understand, what is the method behind all this. So I responded to the person. I said, it's interesting that was the only thing you happened to notice that went on. You didn't notice that we happened to have probably the strongest dancing at Simchas Torah we ever had. We had like 2 hours of dancing that was mamish strong. You didn't notice to mention that we raised $30,000 for tzedakah. You didn't happen to notice that there was a real good environment of love between everybody in the room. So then I said, but you did happen to notice the drinking part. So then I said, I didn't have time to read the whole thing, but I said that there's a mashal to all this, that a lot of times the reason for the drinking on Simchas. So I said, in a perfect world, yes, people wouldn't have to drink, and they would still dance with a lot of gusto, and they would give a lot of tzedakah, and there'd be a lot of love going on. And maybe in yesteryear, in the impoverished cities of Baranovich and Mir and those great cities, it happened. But we certainly don't live in a perfect world. And people have a lot of problems in their lives. And it's very hard to get people to get excited about Simchas Torah, to get adults excited about Simchas Torah. So you have to do what you can. And the truth is, in the Hasidic literature, it talks about this. Hasidic literature, there's many different analogies that are brought for this, but the basic analogy is, you have a person who's lame, who wants to go to a party, who wants to dance, but he's lame, and there's a person who's deaf, who was hanging around and nothing to do. So the lame guy figures, man, I surely would want to come to this party, but I can't, people are going to dance and sing, I can't walk. So what does he do? He calls the strong guy who's deaf and says, here, have a few l'chaims. So he gets him a little bit fashikert. He says, for the l'chaims, I just want one thing, put me on your shoulders. So he puts the guy on his shoulders. The guy's fashikert. Says fashikert, he's jumping all over the place. He's jumping all over the place because he's fashikert. And the guy on top is enjoying the fact he can be jumping around. So that's the same thing I said regarding Simchas Torah. Many of the neshamas of the people in our shul want to dance. Really want to dance. And for one reason only, in honor of the Torah. That's all they want. But our neshamas are in deaf bodies. The bodies, mamish, don't want that. Bodies are not interested in dancing on Simchas Torah. The body doesn't want. The neshama can want all day long. It's not going to happen. So what do you got to do? You got to fashikr the body. It's the body you're fashikring, not the neshama. You got to get the body on side. When the body's on side, okay, now you hop on and hang on for the ride, and the neshama's enjoying it. So that's why you have to. Right, there are certain people whose bodies are on fire too. And I'm sure great rebbes didn't have to drink, but most people aren't. So you got to do what you got to do. I remember my father-in-law of blessed memory, lived in Poland. Living in Poland in the 1920s was not exactly a great life for most Jews, right? He says he remembers Simchas Torah. What did they do on Sunday? It was from a Hasidic family. Well, it wasn't any scholar. It was a regular Pashto Hasidic Yid. And he says, I remember Simchas Torah at night. We'd go from one house to the next, making l'chaims after l'chaims, and we'd be singing and dancing, and we wouldn't sleep the whole night and the whole day. Mom was going from one place to another, drink, nachal l'chaim, dancing more and dancing more, and that's how they loved their Yiddishkeit. So if once a year, twice a year, a Jew gets even goes a little bit more and gets drunk, he's only doing it because it's Simchas Torah. Some person was suggesting this is how people are going to become alcoholics. I say, you know what? People become alcoholics. They got big problems already, and they turn to drinking because they already have big problems. Or someone with big problems, you're teaching him how to drink. But if a person, if his life is normal, he's not going to become an alcoholic. And if he knows twice a year is when you touch it, or even if on a Shabbos you make a l'chaim, on a Friday you make 1, 2 l'chaim, but that's it. But 6 days of the week you don't touch the stuff. Then you take a l'chaim on a Monday. Who takes a l'chaim on a Monday? All right, so I'm going to say your side, so you make a shahakal, take a little bit. But I was saying, if a Jew only takes it, when does he take it? He takes it Friday night. He takes it on Purim. He takes it Simchas Torah. It takes it, the chaver gets together, they want to feel a little bit closer, have a few l'chaims. But stamazai, on a Wednesday afternoon, the guy's got see the way the goy comes home from work on a Wednesday, and they make what do they call it, the cocktails, the cocktail hour. Before they come home from work, they stop in the bar. Why? Because they don't want to come home from work. They know what's waiting for them at work. They have a terrible life, or they don't have any life at home.
That's the British pop culture.
So that's taka will breed a guy to become an alcoholic. But if the guy knows, Simchas Torah, my body doesn't want to go. I need to get my body going. It's Purim. There's a mitzvah adalo yada. It's a Friday night. You have some guests. You want to just have a little simcha. But that's it. But 6 days a week I don't touch the stuff. So you don't have to worry about that. So that's the point.
Did I reply to this?
To that point, then there was other things I mentioned, okay. But to that point, the person didn't question. He accepted it. There were other points I mentioned that he didn't like, but and that I can't share. But this point I can share. Or there's a similar mashal that's given. I read last night specifically regarding why we eat such good food on Shabbos. Why, if Shabbos is such a day of the soul, the Zohar says Shabbos is Yom Nishmasa. It's the day of the soul. So it's the day of the soul. Why are we eating so much? It's the same thing. So a different mashal, very similar idea. But the mashal is given, and this you could say tonight at the Shabbos table. The mashal is given that a prince was punished by his father and was sent to a foreign country. He couldn't come back. Then after many years, he was given a letter, you're forgiven, you can come back. So the son is overjoyed. So really the son wants to make a big party and start dancing. He wants to have a party and start dancing. But if he's going to start dancing in the middle of this foreign country, they're going to think he's crazy. They think he's crazy. So what does he do? He says, I'm going to make a party for everybody. And he gives everybody food and drink and this and that. And everybody's happy. Everybody's happy. Everybody's dancing. They're dancing with him too. So the same thing. Same idea. The neshama is mamish. Everyone's neshama on Shabbos is on fire. Is mamish on fire. We don't know how on fire our neshama is. Every Friday the neshama is going crazy. But the problem is the body is just not very excited about this Shabbos business at all. Right? So and the neshama just can't start dancing. The body's going to think he's crazy. So he has to make the body feel happy too. So you have to give him good food and good that, and the body says, I'm having a good time. So you want your neshama to have a good time. So the Torah really understands, that letting your neshama have a good time can't happen without the body being also on side. Now again, if you're a very, very holy person, the body's been on side all the time. But a lot of people comes Friday night, the body's saying, I'm tired, I want to go to sleep, just leave me alone, And the neshama says, what are you talking about? It's an amazing day. I want to be up. I want to sing Zmiros. I want this. I want that. I want to do everything. If I says, not interested. So make the body happy here. Have a little bit of soup and have a little bit of fish and a little bit of chicken and this. It's a very good meal. But here's where you got to be careful. This is the point we're talking about over. This is where you got to be very careful. But what usually happens, unfortunately, is the Friday meal becomes the focus. And it's not the focus. The Friday meal is only the vehicle to make the body happy enough to let the soul enjoy itself. And therefore, as much as the Torah goes to great lengths, you have to prepare for Shabbos, you have to have the meal ready for Shabbos, it has to be the best food of the week, but not in excess. That's the problem, where what Rabbi Yonah is saying is to break your taivas. So the fact is, so what happens if people really eat a lot of food and they eat a lot of challah, which is a lot of carbohydrates? So what happens? What happens if you eat a lot of carbohydrates late on a Friday night? You fall asleep. And you can't walk away from it, you fall asleep. That's not what Shabbos is all about. You have one piece of challah, very good. Oh, mamish tastes good. And one piece of fish and one piece of chicken. And you're not stuffing yourself. But it's good food and the body is happy, but the body's not ready to fall asleep. Then the Tzrei says, okay, Neshama, you want to sing Zmiros, you can sing Zmiros. So that's the point he's saying, but it's all dictated by the Seichel. The Seichel is saying, I got to get the body on side, so I'm going to cleverly get the body on side. So that's, I don't know how we got onto this topic. It had to do with the holidays. That's your holiday. So again, so is it your Shabbos or is it Hashem Shabbos? So it's Hashem Shabbos, and if we celebrate it in that spirit, then the junk won't fly in your face. You'll be able to grow spiritually from that. Okay. V'nemar, and another pasuk it says in Mishlei, we're 5 lines from the top. L'tava yavak, and this now is very instructive. This will explain, this next 6 words, will explain why there is so much sadness in the world, why there's so much loneliness in the world. It all comes from this. It says, and Rabbi Yonah is giving us 2 different translations, not conflicting at all, but really it's like just 2 sides of the coin. The pasuk says in Mishlei, "L'tava yavakesh nifrad." If a person is searching lusts, he will separate himself. B'chol toshia yiskalo, and with every toshia there will be snarling. So what does that mean? Perish. It means person who wants to go, who seeks to go after his lust, seeks to go after his physical pleasures. You know what happens to such a person? Nifrad mikol chaver v'amis. He ends up separating himself from every friend and every type of companionship. You want to lose friends? Run after pleasures. That's how you lose friends. Why? Because his friends and people who love him, they're going to stay away from him. Why? Because the drives of people and the personalities of people are different. I really love these things, and you love totally different things. I love to go up north for the winter vacation, and the other one loves to go down south for the winter vacation. And it's their tivas that are dictating this. This one's desire is not at all like the other one's desire. So now, no 2 people will always respect other people's boundaries when they're out to gratify themselves physically. So at the moment that they're going to feel an infringement or an endangerment from the other, that's when the big fights begin. If you I really have to have this, I really want this, guess what? Everybody really wants things. And if you're going to really run after your tivas, how's there any avenue of compromise? And therefore you can't be friends. Now, you could have a preference, but there's the lust and then there's the preference. I'd like this, okay, it's not the end of the world if I don't have it. I like this better, but if you're lusting after it, you have to have it, there's going to be too much conflict between people, and that's going to cause separation. Okay, but on the other hand, if a person goes following the intellect, then he's going to have a lot of friends. So it comes out that the Baal Taiva ends up with very little in life. Number one, he loses control of his life. Number two, he can't control himself from doing things even that he realizes that are wrong. Number three, he loses the ability to understand and sense things of a higher spiritual level. And number four, he loses friendships. He loses deep relationships because he's always at that point of conflict in his self-interest. And that hurts the friends. And this is what you see is the result of this prosperous, lust-driven Western society. Nobody's got any real friends. People getting divorced like crazy. Unbelievable. And they really don't have a lot of friends.
You're talking about real friends, though. Because, let's say somebody loves golf or they love...
Yeah, it's a golf partner, but he's not your friend. You're only to the degree that he's accommodating your needs. But the person will be the first one to admit, he's not my friend. He's not my friend. And even as a golf partners, it gets to a point where you get totally crazy about it. No, I like this course and I like that course. And they can't even agree which course to play on. If you're totally driven by lust, you're not going to really have true friends. Ramu Musar and those of the Musar teaching say, Mushu rotzes midosav, Rabu akosim love. A person who really concerns himself with ethical improvement, many people will jump after him to be his friends. He'll have no problem finding friends. But that's one explanation. Meaning to say, if you run after lust, you will lose your friends. And then he says it could be reversed as well. Or you could reverse it and say, Latavi avakish nifrad like this. If you see ish nifrad mikol echad v'chaver, if you see a person who's lonely and separated, you can find out, you can understand why. This is the other side of the coin. It's saying a guy, first shot was, a guy who runs after his lust won't have friends. What if you see a person who has no friends? You must be Lataivu Mavakesh, you must just want lusts. And because he wants to go after his lusts, because of that, friends stay away from him. As it says, V'dol Mareu Yipared. It says, as far as the poor, his friend separates himself from him. So what do you have? You have, so therefore, you have, this is the curse for many single people. We're not saying all single people. A lot of people want to get married and there's things beyond their control. But the general curse of the single people is that people are trained to have everything they want. So everything they want. So yeah, I'd get married for sure if the person I married had all 57 qualities that I need to have in my life. That doesn't exist. So therefore, you're looking at lonely people. Now, not always. It could be, elderly people, their husbands pass away. They don't have any other friends. They're left alone. We're talking people through their entire lives are lonely people. It's because they've been running after their lusts. Okay, and without friends, obviously the second point, without friends, it's very hard to do tshuva as well. You need an environment to be able to do that. Okay, shkoyach everybody.